Hello, it is time for a slightly vlog style December wrap up. I read 26 books in December, which is my best reading month of the year. I kind of anticipated that. It was my best reading month in 2019 as well, because I just have more time because I'm able to book quite a lot of time off over the winter break. So I read 26 books and I'm going to take you through them. I've actually done quite a lot of vlogs this month or last month as well. So I'm not going to talk about all of these in a lot of depth because you've already heard me talk about quite a few of them already. So my first vlog in December was my Shard-a-thon round 2 vlog, and for that I read The Arithmetist by Brandon Sanderson, Flawed and Perfect by Cecilia Ahern, Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo, Piranesi by Susanna Clarke, and Emperor's Soul by Brandon Sanderson. I also separately read The Hope of Elantris and Alamancer Jack and The Pits of Eltania. Yeah, The Pits of Eltania. They weren't part of the Shard-a-thon readathon, I just kind of read them because they were the last 2 in this short story bind-up that I hadn't read yet, so I read those 2. The Hope of Elantris is a very, very short novella showing a different perspective during some of the last scenes in the book Elantris, and I really enjoyed that. I was a little bit confused about where I was in time at first, but once I figured it out, it was really enjoyable. And Alamancer Jack is a story that is included in a newspaper or broadsheet in the world of Mistborn Era 2, and it's just kind of like an adventure story. It's not my favourite, but I did enjoy it. But they're both so short that there's very little for me to say about them. And then I did my festive reading challenge. So for this one I read Herschel and the Hanukkah Goblins by Eric Kimmel, Sita's Ramayana by Samita Arni and Moina Chitraka, Once Upon an Eid, which is an anthology of various authors but edited by S.K. Ali and Aisha Saeed, Recommended for You by Laura Silverman, What Light by Jay Asher. I reread The Afterlife of Holly Chase by Cynthia Hand, Dash and Lily's Book of Dares by David Levithan and Rachel Cohn, which I listened to on audiobook and don't own a copy of, and This Winter by Alice Oseman. So that's it for vlogs. There are then a couple of videos that I have already spoken about. So The Shadows by J.R. Ward I included in my wrap up for November because I had already read the vast majority of this at that point, and I just read sort of the last maybe 100 pages or so in December, so I'm not going to talk about this one again. And I also read City of Lies by Sam Hawke, which I've done a dedicated review for, so I will link that up above as well. You can go and hear my thoughts about this one there. Then I have a couple of books that I have read for a secret TBR that is still on the go, so I can't talk to you about those 2, which leaves us with 6 books, including these 2 that we can talk about. So I'll talk about the ones that I don't have physical copies of first. So I read In an Absent Dream and Come Tumbling Down by Shonen Maguire, which are books 4 and 5 in the Wayward Children series. I've read books 1 to 3 the year before last, I guess, in 2019, in December of 2019 actually, so I guess I've made it a habit to read multiple Wayward Children series books in December, but I do really enjoy them, and I do seem to enjoy reading a couple together because they're so short. So In an Absent Dream is kind of a backstory for one of the characters that appears in the very first Wayward Children's book. which is Every Heart a Doorway. So that's what In an Absent Dream is about. And then Come Tumbling Down follows Jack and Jill, who appear in Every Heart a Doorway, but their first kind of main book is book 2, which is Down Among the Sticks and Bones, and then we're back with them again in Come Tumbling Down. So I can't really tell you much more about what these are about because they're so short, and although the majority of the Wayward Children books can be read in kind of any order, with Come Tumbling Down you really need to have read at least the first 3 for Come Tumbling Down to make sense. I enjoy the books in this series. I don't love them. I think they're enjoyable, nice quick reads. I think that because they're so short though, I struggle to kind of sink into the story in a way. So yeah, I mean, I enjoy reading them, but they're definitely not favourites, and I find them really difficult to talk about because they're so short. So I'm just going to move on. The other book that I read that I don't own is The Space Between Worlds by Micaiah Johnson, which was the Thoughtful Book Club book for December. And this is a strange one because I kind of went into it thinking that it was sci-fi, and it has sci-fi elements, but it's plot-wise much more of a conspiracy mystery type story. So in this version of our world, it is possible to travel between parallel dimensions, but you can only travel to an alternate universe if the version of you in that universe has died. So there can only be one version of you in any given universe at any one time. And our protagonist, Kara, is actually dead in over 300 worlds, which makes her the perfect operative to travel between alternate universes and kind of gather information. So that's the information that's contained in the synopsis, and I would say that that's really only the very sort of first bit and the setup for the story. I thought the story was going to be about that, but it's really not. And I actually found some of the twists that happened in this story quite predictable, which is very unusual for me. So you might be thinking, well, does that mean that it was really obvious? But I don't think so. I think this is just one of those where I was kind of on the same wavelength as the author in terms of the twists that she was going to put in, because I don't think anyone else in the book club figured out what those twists were. But even having said that I was on the same wavelength as the author, I didn't necessarily get on with this book particularly well. Not because I figured out the twists, but because the whole conspiracy adventure plot type thing isn't really what I was going in expecting, and isn't the kind of thing I typically love anyway. So I liked this book fine, but I didn't thoroughly enjoy myself with it, unfortunately. So that one was kind of a bit of a miss for me, sadly. And then the other one that I read that I don't have a copy of was A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, which I've consumed the story of so many times in my life, but I've never actually read the original story, and I decided to listen to the audiobook of it on Christmas Eve night, which just added this layer of atmosphere that was really, really fun. And I just was listening to it and colouring in, and it was a very relaxing experience. I enjoyed myself. It kind of almost felt like a reread because I'm so familiar with the story, and because it's so short of a book, a lot of the lines from the book have been imported into lots of film adaptations of the story over the years, so it really did feel like a reread, even though I've technically never read it before. But I really enjoyed consuming the story in the way that I did, and it was a thoroughly enjoyable experience. Now moving on to the two books that I have physical copies of. First of all, I have How the King of Elfheim Learned to Hate Stories by Holly Black and illustrated by Ravina Kai. This one is a novella, sort of set both after and before and during the events of the Folk of the Air trilogy by Holly Black. So the kind of now plot is happening after the events of Queen of Nothing, and then the flashback scenes are before and up to and including some of the beginning parts of The Cruel Prince. And this is a beautiful illustrated edition as well. It's very, very short. It's only sort of 172 or something pages, and yeah, 173 pages in fact. But I just really enjoyed this. I think if you don't like the Folk of the Air trilogy, then this clearly is not going to be a book for you. But I enjoyed having a little bit of Cardan's perspective, because we don't really get that in the original trilogy, and it was just kind of nice to be back in the world for a short time with a different perspective and to get a little bit of his backstory. Again, because it's so short, I really struggle to talk about short books because I never want to say too much. I love reading illustrated books like this. There's just something magical and enjoyable about that experience, and I did really enjoy reading this one. And then the last book that I'm going to wrap up in this video is The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, which is a mystery competition challenge type book. So we are following Avery, who gets this multi-billion-dollar inheritance from a man that she doesn't know, has never met, has never heard of. She has no idea why she has this inheritance, and he has a family. He has 4 grandsons and 2 daughters, and although he's left them something, he's left his billions to Avery on the condition that she lives in the family home with his family for a year. And he's left behind clues to help them figure out why he's left all his billions to Avery. Now, this one does kind of end on a slight cliffhanger. It's not a complete cliffhanger, but there is quite a lot open at the end of this one, and I'm not entirely sure when the sequel is coming out. I think it's autumn 2021, which I'm sad about because I kind of want to know what happens, but I'll have to just wait like everyone else. And I thoroughly enjoyed this. I really don't read mystery books very often, but I liked the competition element in this one. I enjoyed Avery as a character. There were lots of kind of plot threads weaving in together, but none of them felt unnecessary. This is YA, so if you are an experienced mystery reader, I'm not sure that this would work for you. For example, I think Kayla from Books and Lala read this and was just kind of meh about it because it didn't do anything that she's not familiar with, because she reads so many mystery thriller type stories. But for me, someone who doesn't, this was really fun and engaging, and I was very much absorbed in the story. This is much more so the kind of mystery that I can get behind, as opposed to the Space Between Worlds, which was more conspiracy thriller mystery. This is much more kind of challenge puzzle based mystery, which is more my speed, I think. So I really thoroughly enjoyed this, and I'm sad that I'm gonna have to wait nearly a whole year to find out what happens next, but I'm really glad that I read it and I very much enjoyed it. So I know that I didn't really talk in detail about most of these, but it's because I've spoken about them before, or they're a secret for now and you will see them in a vlog in the near future. But that's it. Those are all the books that I've read in December. Were you happy with your December reading? Did you have a good reading year? Let me know down in the comments. But that is it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video and want to see more like this from me, then do think about hitting that subscribe button, and I hope to see you here again soon. Thanks. Bye.